Hey! I hope you enjoyed the Christmas background. Yes, we do have two Christmas trees. Don't ask me why, it just kind of happened. This isn't really trees, this is like branches kind of from my mom's Christmas tree. But yeah, we ended up having two Christmas trees, I guess I can call it that. So that's how Christmas is going for me so far. But today's video is not even a tiny bit related to Christmas. Today's video is traumatic. It's different from what I usually upload on this channel, but it's definitely close to my heart. As you can tell by the title, I will be talking about the fast food restaurant that I used to work at, how it started, how it ended, but most importantly, how cruel some people can be. So now that we have this optimistic introduction out of the way, let's begin the story. After finishing high school in 2017, I had to find a job. Well, technically I didn't need to find a job, but I wanted a job because, I wanted to make some money and finally do something productive with my life. So the plan was to work for 3 months and then at the beginning of the academic year, so in October, quit so I can focus on my studies. Well, that didn't happen, I can tell you. I applied to this one fast food place whose name I don't know if I can say here, but it's pretty much like any other fast food restaurant. So in this video, I'll just call it a fast food restaurant. I worked in this fast food restaurant chain for 3 years. I worked in 2 different restaurants in 2 different cities, but I applied mainly because it was close to my home. So I started working in June 2017, and the first days, okay, maybe not days, maybe weeks, or maybe months, maybe even months. They weren't easy. They were not the easiest months of my life, let me put it that way. I'm a very shy person in general, so joining a team of workers that, they had already known each other, and I was the new one. I'm sorry if you can hear my dog bark in the background, but she's a Yorkie, so please excuse her. So joining a new team of people who already knew each other was a pretty difficult thing for me to do. But after some time, I started getting better and faster, and it didn't seem as difficult. But yeah, it took me a while. It took me like half a year to start talking to people. There were better and worse days, of course. I got burnt a few times. I did hit myself onto the metal equipment a few times, but it was fun. I cannot complain about at least the kitchen part of the job. The cashier part we'll go into in a few minutes because that's a whole other story. But in general, I met many very cool people and I gained a lot of valuable experience. As I said before, I wanted to quit after 3 months, but I didn't. At the end of September, I came up to the manager and I told him that I would like to... Can you stop shaking, please? I think it's my chair, actually. So I came up to the manager to tell him that I want to quit because of this and this reason, and also because my contract was finishing anyway. Well, I left the manager's office with a new contract. So I did not quit after 3 months as I wanted to. But I figured, I got better at the job and I met people that I really liked, and it's also the kind of a job that you can do on the weekends as well, so it didn't collide with my studies. So if I could make some extra money and spend time with cool people, I figured why not. The one thing I think I should mention in this video about the restaurant that I worked for, and I don't know if it's the same in other restaurants and other chains, but if you work hard, if you do your best, your work is usually noticed. I am the kind of a person that whenever I work on something, I tend to give, 100%. Like, I do everything I can in the best way I can. And I was lucky enough to be noticed by the managers. And in 2018, I was promoted to an expert. An expert is a person that trains new workers and tests the knowledge of the older workers. So I actually really enjoyed that because I was in good relations with all the other workers. So yeah, that was actually fun. But the real fun began in 2019. In that year, they offered me the position of a junior shift manager. And until then, I didn't want to work on the cashiers because luckily I could choose not to. And as I said before, I'm a shy person, so I wanted to avoid human contact the most I could. But as I was offered that promotion that I really, really wanted to take, I felt like the only correct and only fair way to do it was by actually pushing myself a bit and working on the cashiers. And I don't know, I don't regret that. But it surely was an interesting experience, which I will tell you about right now. Girl, can you not? Or let me present to you a couple of situations that got stuck in my head that I will never forget. Most memorable situations I have with the customers that maybe if you've never worked in a fast food restaurant, maybe they will demonstrate it to you how difficult it is to deal with people sometimes. This one I remember the most because it was actually the only time that a stranger actually made me cry. Now I laugh about it, but back then it was a pretty sad situation for me. Well, this one day I worked on the drive-thru, which drive-thru is like the worst nightmare of every cashier worker. So everyone hated working on the drive-thru, including me. But I was the unlucky one who actually had to take care of the drive-thru on that day. Well, this one family drives up, right? There's a woman, there's a man, and there's some child in the back seat. So they make an order, I put everything into the system, and they pay, and surprise, surprise, right after paying, it turns out they asked for a large menu instead of a regular one that they had already paid for. Now, if they were nice to me, I would just give them the food, the large menu in the price of the regular one without making them pay extra. That would be no problem for me, and that would be it. That would be it. I would just go on with my day, they would go on with theirs. But oh god, I'm getting angry now. The woman started screaming at me like no one ever has. I swear to god, no one has ever yelled at me this much. I swear she must have lost her voice after that. That's how loudly she was screaming. I cannot even put it into words. I was actually pretty new on the cashiers at that time, and I was having a bad day in general. I didn't sleep enough. I think I was a few days before my period, and that's just, that means I get very emotional. But back then I still held myself together. So I gave them the food. They drove off. I gave them a large menu, by the way. They didn't have to pay extra. So they drove off, and I was like, okay, she's gone. Let's forget about that. Let's not think about that anymore. But then this woman comes into the restaurant. She walks into the restaurant, and I'm like, oh crap. Oh great. She walks up to the cashiers, and she starts screaming again. Apparently, instead of 9 nuggets, she received 6. Which obviously is a mistake, but it wasn't my mistake. It was the mistake of the kitchen. I wasn't even the one packing her food. It was someone else. Doesn't matter. I can kind of understand that from a point of view of a customer that's never worked in a fast food. You don't know who to blame for the fact that there was, not enough nuggets. I don't know. People make mistakes. No one is perfect. You shouldn't yell at others. Never mind. Okay. I don't remember what else she was screaming. Mainly because at that point I just had enough. I ran into the kitchen area and I started crying because I couldn't handle someone screaming at me for such a long time. I'm a very weak person, okay? The shift manager took over, actually defended me as well, which was very nice. And luckily when I came back into I was all red on my face, my eyes all swollen and everything. But I came back to the cashiers. And luckily she left and I never saw her again. Only in my nightmares. But thank God not in real life. There's been a couple of situations in which people came up to us to complain that some burger was missing something or there was something wrong with the burger, which obviously is a mistake on our part, and for me it was no problem to just make a new burger or just refund the money. But what's funny about it is that those people usually came up with like a quarter of a burger left or like this tiny piece. They're like, we received this is wrong, make it all over again. And every time this happened, I was like, really? Like, you almost finished the entire burger and you only noticed that there's something wrong with it now that it's almost finished? This one situation specifically, it was very weird and it made me feel very uncomfortable at that time. And it still makes me feel uncomfortable when I think about it. Just to think that this keeps on happening to many other female workers or just workers in general. One elderly man was ordering something. He was around 60, maybe even 70. He was ordering something and then all of a sudden he stopped. He looked me deeply in the eyes and he was like, "You have such beautiful angelic eyes." And like, I get it that maybe he was trying to be nice, but it's just a weird thing, you know? It's a weird thing for a 60, 70-year-old man to say to a 20-year-old girl who's really just trying to make some money, to sell some burgers and some fries, you know? That's no, just you can keep that comment for yourself. I would really be happy if you did. However, these situations have been happening to many female coworkers of mine, like customers grabbing their hand or just like making weird comments in general. It made me feel very uncomfortable at the time. This one situation happened to a coworker of mine. I was already in the second restaurant. I was a junior shift manager. It was on my shift that this happened, but I wasn't there exactly. The second place I worked at was in a shopping center, so we only took care of the region of our restaurant. So the eating area was not our responsibility to clean. The shopping center had a team of workers who cleaned up the eating area. So this one worker, very, very sweet girl, she goes out into the eating area to bring an order to an older man who had trouble walking, and it would be very problematic for him to walk up to the restaurant to pick up his food. So she takes the tray with the order, he brings it to him. She's like, "Enjoy your meal." And then, I think he did it on purpose. What he did is he spilled his drink onto the table. And then he was like, now you clean this. What? Like, for me, even if it's not my job, I would have cleaned it up, just because, you know, that if this happened by accident, but this did not happen by accident. Honestly, he was just being an asshole to the girl. I cannot explain why this happened. It's so ridiculous. It even makes me laugh when I talk about it, because it's so ridiculous. But oh well, that's the kind of people you meet in fast food restaurants. This weird coronavirus time brings many new situations, one of which being people, you know, they walk next to your restaurant with a mask on, but then when they come up to you to order, they take off their mask. Like, I can kind of understand that maybe it's just like, you know, a reflex for you to take off something from your mouth to be able to speak to someone else. But it's not a reflex when you take off the food from the bag, because right now in Poland, you cannot eat in. You have to take out the food. All the eating areas and shopping centers are closed. You cannot eat there. You have to take the food home or eat in the car or something. So it's definitely not a reflex to just take out the food in front of the restaurant and just eat in front of the restaurant because the eating area is closed. There's been also many situations in which in the very morning someone wanted to pay with a 200 note. We did not have enough cash in the restaurant to give change to that customer. And we would tell that person, like, "No, I'm sorry, we don't have change. We cannot give you change if you pay with this note." And they would get angry, like, such a big restaurant doesn't have change. You don't have money, how come? Such a big restaurant. It's like, that doesn't matter. It could be the biggest restaurant of the world. If you pay with such a high note on such an early time, no one would be able to give you change. There's so many more situations that happened. I just don't remember them all. The ones I mentioned are the ones that just got stuck in my head, and just I'm sometimes, you know, sitting on the sofa watching TV and I'm like, oh wait, yeah, that happened. I quit after 3 years, over 3 years, but that was because I wanted to do something more connected to my interests, and also because I only wanted to keep this job until I finished my bachelor's, which I did this year actually. So I quit in November 2020. Don't get me wrong though, I don't think that working in a fast food restaurant is a bad idea. I think it's actually a pretty good job, especially if it's your first job. It gives you a lot of experience and you meet a lot of cool people, so many various people. For me, that was the best part of working in a fast food restaurant. It was meeting new people. It was stressful at times, but it was also fun. So I don't think I would come back right now. I think I would, unless I had to, I wouldn't come back to a fast food restaurant. But I don't have many bad things to say about it. And as to customers, there was also very nice customers. A big part of the customers was actually very, very nice and very understanding. So I can't complain about that. But you know, you usually remember the bad ones the most because it's just some situations are just so ridiculous. I just wish, you know, that they weren't situations in which a customer is so rude to a worker that they make them cry. I get that sometimes you might be unhappy with the service, sometimes something might go wrong, but we are all just human. And honestly, if your order is wrong, you just come up to the manager and you ask for to exchange your order or for a refund. There should be no problem whatsoever. But yeah, as I said, it's not the most terrible job. I think there's bad sides to it, but there's also good sides to it. That being said, I have so much respect to people who work with clients directly, especially in fast food restaurants, because it's a tough job. If you have any stories of working with customers, doesn't matter if it's fast food or not, I love reading those stories. So if you have any stories, please share them with me in the comments. I would love, love, love to read them. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!